Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 2232nd regular meeting of the MRGCD Board of Directors. We have a quorum today. 5 board members in person and 2 board members have called in. Director Huron and Director Sandoval are listening in on the meeting. Good afternoon, directors. Director Huron, are you with us?
Good afternoon, Chairman.
Good afternoon, Director. Director Sandoval?
Yes, yes, I'm on the line.
Okay,
Good
great.
afternoon.
All right. We do have a quorum of 7 board members. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. David Montoya, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, next item is to approve the agenda. Directors, we have another report from the board from Director Russo Baca. We'll add it as 16Q, a report on the American Indian Day at the New Mexico Legislature and her attending various committee hearings on bills of interest to the district. So we'll add that at 16Q. Directors, do you have any other changes, additions? So Jason, do you have any changes?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to add an update on the Acequia Madre public meeting project that happened last Thursday evening. And I'd like to add that as my new 14A.
Why don't we add it with item 9 where we're discussing the Acequia Madre project anyway? 9A.
We can do that. The other one is that I know that Director Lopez has a board report tied within board reports that will be germane to the O&M update that our that our Director of Technical Services and his staff will give. So I still think we can approve all board reports in 16, but I think his comments associated with O&M work and the work in Socorro would probably fit within that area.
Okay. Okay, directors. So we've added 2 items to the agenda, and we'll move things around for Director Lopez's comments. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion. Second. Motion a second. This will be a roll call vote. Director Huron?
Yes.
Director Sandoval?
Yes,
Director Russo Baca?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Director Dunning, Director Lopez. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is the consent agenda. Directors, are there any items that you want to remove from the consent agenda to be considered separately? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion. Second, Director Dunning. Roll call vote again. Director Huron?
Yes.
Director Sandoval?
yes,
Director Russo Baca?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Director Dunning? Director Lopez?
Yes.
I will note that we made a nearly $2 million payment to one of our contractors. Sanchez Demolition, working down on the low flow conveyance channel. That's probably one of the biggest checks you've written here, Pam. And that is a project funded through the state state engineer. So,
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, members of the board, for clarification, that was on the Socorro Main Canal channel lining. Project.
that's right.
And that is still with the State Water Trust Board money, but for just clearing up the record, that is on the Socorro Main Canal channel lining.
Okay, next item. Directors, at the last board meeting, we assigned committee members to the Finance Committee and the Legislative Committee. At this meeting, I'm going to appoint the rest of the committees and committee members. Director Huron and Director Sandoval, we have a handout in our package, but I will read through these quickly, and then at the end of that, I'll ask everybody to confirm their acceptance of being a committee member. So Finance Committee, myself, Director Russo-Baca, Director Baugh. Legislative Committee, Director Dunning, Director Russo-Baca, Director Baugh. Personnel Committee, Director Kelly, myself, Director Dunning, Director Russo-Baca. Urban Issues Committee, Director Dunning, Director Russo-Baca, and Director Baugh. Irrigation Committee, Director Sandoval, Director Huron, and Director Lopez. The BIOP Consultation Committee, we're reforming this committee as we move through the new BIOP with Fish and Wildlife. Will be Director Dunning, Director Russo-Baca, and Director Lopez. The Mid-Region Council of Governments assignments, Director Russo-Baca will be on the executive committee with Director Dunning as the alternate. And then Jason will take care of TPTG and any other staff committees they have. Then I've included other committee status. The election committee will reconvene for next year when we have an election coming up. The Centennial Committee has been vacated. The Water Protection Committee never met, so I'm vacating that committee. And Jason, if you think you need it again, let's take a good look at that. And then the BIA Negotiation Committee, I vacated that because we're at the point in that negotiation where we're following what was set out in the existing agreement. So then at the bottom, we've listed the advisory committees we have, the Conservation Advisory Committee with 8 public members, the Urban Issues Advisory Committee that we are seeking members right now, and then the Irrigators Working Group. I understand Director Russo-Baca is working up a short and sweet charter for that committee so we can move to create another advisory committee. So those are the committee assignments for 2026. And we have oh, there you are back there. Report from on water supply conditions.
Good afternoon, Chair Kelly, members of the board. I had hoped to come today's meeting with better news than I have today. However, above average temperatures have dominated the basin's weather this past month, and snowpack conditions have not improved since our last meeting. Here's a map from the Natural Resource Conservation Service, which maintains the SNOTEL monitoring network. This map illustrates snowpack conditions in the basins relevant to Middle Valley water supply. In all of these basin snowpack conditions are less than 50% of the 30-year median for this date. So the next graph I have is from the Cumbres Trestle SNOTEL monitoring site. This graph illustrates how much moisture is stored as snow, also known as snow water equivalent, at this site. The Cumbres Trestle is useful for understanding potential runoff conditions into the Rio Chama. The green line on the graph illustrates the median condition by date. The blue-green line illustrates conditions from the 2025 water year, and the black line represents 2026 water year to date. This site is currently about 56% of its median, but only 34% of the median peak, which is only 57 days away. So this location would have to accumulate 17 more inches of snow water equivalent this year to meet that peak median. Monitoring snowpack conditions is important because it informs expectations for spring runoff, because the size of snowpack dictates the duration and magnitude of spring runoff. If snowpack conditions do not improve over the next couple of months, the Middle Valley can expect spring runoff to be short and small. The NRCS uses snowpack data from throughout the basin to create streamflow forecasts. Forecasts based on the February 1 conditions show the Otoe gauge, which is located north of the Cochiti Reservoir on the Rio Grande, is expected to see approximately 200,000 acre-feet of native Rio Grande flow from March through July. This is only 35% of the 30-year median. Forecast percentages worsen moving through the basin. The San Marshal gauge, which is located south of Bosque del Apache, is forecasted to see only 6% of its 30-year median, which is about 20,000 acre-feet. I will acknowledge that there's still a couple months left for winter to bring additional moisture to the mountains. However, the basin is currently in a significant deficit, and it will take some sizable storms to meaningfully change conditions. In addition to potentially limited spring runoff, MRGCD will not be able to store any native Rio Grande water this year due to the size of New Mexico's Rio Grande compact debt. This means that once spring runoff concludes, MRGCD will have very limited ability to supplement river flows with releases from storage. Farmers should expect MRGCD to operate as a run-of-the-river system for the majority of the year and to be in rotations for most, if not all, of the irrigation season. Rotation intervals will be dictated by available supply rather than a fixed schedule. MRGCD will be reliant on summer rain inflows to continue making irrigation deliveries after spring runoff, which can happen suddenly and can be challenging to manage for. MRGCD will distribute and deliver rain inflows when and where we are able. Based on current conditions, I expect the Middle Valley will experience prior and paramount only operations during periods this summer. When the Middle Valley is in prior and paramount only operations, the Bureau of Indian Affairs will require curtailment of non-Pueblo lands in the Middle Valley north of Isleta Pueblo. Farmers should be taking these conditions into consideration when making farming decisions this year. So the National Weather Service weekly forecast, I have it up here on the screen. It indicates the basin could receive some moisture this week, but the temperatures are expected to remain above average until this weekend. So the next table I have actually shows the highs forecasted, but then the table on the right shows that deviation from the median conditions. So if you look at Los Alamos, today is supposed to hit a high of 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's about 15 degrees above the average for today. And you can see that continues pretty much throughout the state for the entire week. And that's really been the story of this winter, just well above average temperatures. And looking at the National Weather Service seasonal outlook through April, I think we're most likely to expect to see above average temperatures and below average precipitation through April. So this concludes my report. I encourage everyone to pray for snow and hopefully some cooler temperatures as well. And I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Ann. Questions from the board? Mr. Bison?
Thanks, Chairman Kelly. And you said 17 inches of water. What does that mean in feet or inches of snow? Like, is it 3 to 1? I don't know. What's the
Chair Kelly, Director Baugh, that really just depends on the moisture content of the snow. You can have really dry snow, and that would require quite a bit. I think maybe like a 12 to 1 maybe is a good. I don't know what is. I don't know the answer to that question, but I think it depends on the soil moisture of the snow.
Vice Chair Baugh, I use 10 to 1 because it's easy to compute. That inch of rain should have given us 10 inches of snow. And well, and I know these, well, let me check. Director Huron, Director Sandoval, any questions for Ann?
No, I don't have
No,
any.
Chairman.
Okay. I know you've been getting the message out at our irrigators meetings, and I don't think there's a farmer in the middle Rio Grande Valley who knows, who doesn't know what we're facing this summer. Last year we had 39 days of PNP operations that shut water down in Albuquerque Division.
Truthfully, that's correct.
And I have a feeling this summer we're going to meet that, if not exceed it. Looking at that long-term forecast, things are dire out there. Jason or Amanda, about 6, 7 months ago, you came up with I remember it being an orange sticker that was or advertisement that was in the paper in the 50s about the dire water conditions expected. Could we pull that out and put that on our website? Just to remind people this has happened before and we got through it. But back then we didn't have social media. We didn't have a website. So we published things in the local newspapers. I think that's just a good reminder for everybody that we'll get through it somehow or another, and we're going to start on a rotation schedule. So thanks for your report. I wish we could all be more confident about the upcoming season.
Thank you.
Okay, items from the floor. Do we have anybody called in? Okay, I'm going to start on this side of the room over here. And sir, please come forward and state your name for the record.
Yeah.
Jerry Montano from Bosque. That was one of the biggest complainers the last 2 years about water shortage up there from the Highland to Feeder 3 to the Sabinal and Harad. But now I see that the project is going on. I want to, thank Mr. Jason, Mr. Martinez, and Eric Zamora. Mr. Martinez would always tell me when I used to call him, I say, hey, we don't have no water. And he said, we're working on it. We're working at it. So it's been, in fact, I have an old map here that was the first time that they showed us, what was going to happen. So I just want to thank whoever put that all together. So hopefully, I think Mr. Zamora said that maybe we won't have any, it won't finish this year because there's some problems and some, so maybe in the next couple of years, we'll have some water if we need it. So thank you.
Thank you for coming to the board today. And my understanding is we're putting the transmission pipe in the ground right now, and it'll be a follow-up project a year from now for the pumps, because the lead time on getting those pumps, we couldn't have done it before this season.
In fact, they started. I in the post office, they stopped me. I don't know why. Even this morning, they said, "Hey, what's going on over there?" And one of the other stopped me about a week ago. They thought that all those pipes were going to go in the ground and take the water from the ground. I said, no. So he was happy about that.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vicari?
Mr. Chair and directors, my name is Guy Ducheri, and I'm here following up on my emails and photos that I've sent you about the what's happening in what was the River Mile 163 project. So the area that we're talking about is all within the Bosque Open Space Preserve, and this is up in northern Valencia County. And the area I'm talking about is on the west side of the river and north of Main Street. And I'm here to ask you again to consider putting in blocking motor vehicle access to that particular area. Because what is happening is, since the completion of the bank lowering and bank removal project, BOR had to put in access roads running from the levee to the river. And pulled the bank back and literally piled all that on the levee road. So now there's all these access roads that run from the levee road to the river, and there's lots of trucks, ATVs using them. They're not staying on the levee road, not even close. There's lots of tire tracks everywhere. And so they're using those accesses to the river. And then I sent you the pictures where some people have actually built duck blinds, and really, really nice ones. I mean, camo, they've got rebar and everything in this area that is an open space preserve. So they're driving in there to do that too. It's just wholesale, they're just ignoring the prohibition on driving through the bosque. And one of the big problems is the replanting has started. So they're putting in more trees and grasses in areas that were completely denuded of that. So the trees and the grasses that are being planted, there's really no chance of survival under the current circumstances with all the motor vehicle access. And I got to emphasize, all this has taken place just in the last few months since the construction phase of the RM-163 project was completed. So we know what's going to happen if you don't block that off, because it's happening. People are going to keep doing it. And in large part, there's really low chance of any meaningful consequences. And it's very difficult to enforce it and to have people in there to stop people from doing this. And I think the only option is really to close it to motor vehicle access. And as I want to emphasize, this is just on the west side of the river, north of Main Street in Los Lunas. And I think you just need to put a lock on that gate that's only for that gate, and no keys, and don't sell them, and get it to your people that need it. You know, the MRGCD, Village of Los Lunas, fire responders, Bureau of Reclamation. And that's what I'm here to ask you about. And I put a bunch of this into my letters that I've sent to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you're
Jason, I know
looking
you've
at me.
spoken with the Bureau on this, but given the focus on this, can you address anything now, or would you prefer to put that on the agenda for next meeting, or?
We'll put it on the agenda for next meeting, but I've already asked the right-of-way staff to be looking into this, and just functionally outside of I just want to set expectation outside of changing locks and those kinds of things. A lot of the types of vehicles that were described will still be difficult, especially in a dry riverbed that we're expecting this summer. So I think we can obviously work on the gates and stuff like that, but the kind of summer that we're facing, we will still have trouble with these kinds of vehicles, especially as the riverbed dries.
Thank you. Anybody else on this? Come on up.
Good afternoon, Chairman Kelly and members of the board, Jason. I'm just speaking briefly here. I know that you guys on the agenda, you have a consideration of approval for the Atrisco Acequia Madre project.
Jorge, can you just say your full name for the record, please?
Oh, my name,
Yeah, say your full name.
Jorge Garcia from CESOS and SVRA, sorry. So back to the Atrisco Acequia Madre project, I just want to reiterate the support that we want to put on this project. We have a long list of exchanges of information and communications that took place back in 2019 and 2020. And the community back then, as it is now, we put a lot of effort in and to push for that area to become an educational site for acequia water rights and acequia culture and acequia everything. And so I just want to anticipate, knowing that you guys you have it for consideration, just to say that we are very much in support of this project, and we're going to be pushing hard to make sure that it involves education for the community.
Thank you, Jorge.
Thank you.
Jorge, we're going to be speaking on the public meeting under item 9A as well, if you want to stay around for that.
Anybody else on this side? come up, please come up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Janet Jarrett, and I am here regarding some documents I think you have at your desk called Discussion of Water Rights Transfer for Shadydale Farms. The first thing I did was try to find a resolution because I heard that you guys were protesting water rights frequently, water rights transfers frequently. And so I looked for a resolution to see if I could address concerns that might be expressed in that resolution. Didn't find one, found one that I think probably actually stops you from doing that, but that's neither here nor there, from 1973. But in any event, I kind of wanted to provide a little bit more information because it's very difficult to get information about water rights transfers without protesting it. So this is land that my family's had for a long time that the village of Los Lunas chose to condemn. We fought that condemnation for 3 years. We did not want to sell it. We did not want to convert it. We did not want to have this. The best we could do was to sever the water rights off the condemned property so that we could retain ownership of the water rights, because what else are we going to do? So in your packet, you've got a little discussion, and then you've got a couple of maps. And the first one there should be the map where they outlined, this is from a 2014 transfer, because we took the water rights from that property and moved it to leased land that was on the water bank. So we continued using it for irrigation, originally on approximately 8 acres, because this is 8 acres worth of water rights. So it's only 16 acre feet, basically. So it's not a huge amount. We used it on that land. I was on the water bank. It was leased land. Subsequently, didn't lease that anymore, then put it on some other land that we had leased. That also was on the water bank, but that land is no longer subject to irrigation. So these water rights, the only way they can be put to beneficial use is to transfer them. You know, I'm the youngest of the 3 siblings. So I'm kind of freaking out about, you know, that aging care thing, you know. So it's my job as kind of the president of the LLC to try to get the highest and best value for these water rights. And Santa Fe's water bank is currently at 0. And so they have a need and would take an expedited transfer if we could get that done. But I'm just trying to give more information about why we're selling it. I know you guys, a lot of you know me well enough to know that I'm not a big fan of drying agricultural land or any of those things, but this does not impair the district's operations at all because it's not appurtenant to irrigated land at this point in time. Because the last picture is what's on that land now, which is a wastewater treatment plant. It's like a knife in the heart to have that there. But so that's what I'm trying to do. That's what this transfer is about, is trying to take a one-time asset and do the best I can with it, since we couldn't save the land. And so I'm kind of here to answer any questions or provide any more clarity for anybody.
Directors? Typically, items from the floor is not a question and answer session.
Oh.
We appreciate you bringing this to our attention. Jason, perhaps we need to discuss this at I haven't seen this come up.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, this was, I knew this was coming for public comment, encouraged this in public comment. As you know, MRGCD is, and I've been executing a long practice of protesting water rights transfers, especially from the benefited area to Santa Fe. But I think the appropriate place to discuss this and answer any of your questions for me is in executive session.
I agree.
Yeah. The one thing I would point out, though, is that this is, like I said, it's not appurtenant to any currently irrigated. It doesn't dry any land that isn't already been dried. And so it's, you know, it has to be transferred to be put to beneficial use. That's kind of a, you know, I'm between a rock and a hard place, honestly, for how to put it to beneficial use.
Thank you. Director Denny.
But am I allowed to ask a question here?
Please do.
Is there, is the reason that you're wanting to transfer it to Santa Fe, is that because they offered you the most money, or is there anybody in the more local area that you could sell those water rights to?
I tried locally first, honestly, because I thought that would be a faster process. I didn't find any takers, and Santa Fe is the most. And I'm looking at elder care for my older sister first, and then my older brother. And so I think it's behooves me. This is something that my parents had. And I think it behooves me it's my responsibility to do the best I can for everybody concerned. But the reason I'm here is because it's a unique situation. To have a water rights transfer that doesn't actually dry any land is pretty odd. I personally have not seen that before. And so it's kind of a unique situation where it's not a one size fits all thing. That's the reason I'm here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Okay, this side of the aisle. Dave, looks like you're trying to put your hand up.
David Montoya, 8831 4th Street, Northwest. I just wanted to make sure that we've had some calls from the village of Los Ranchos to make sure that the project that we talked about for the Gasati extension, 80 feet, is still going to happen this month, and maybe that is, maybe it's already too late for this month. But people are asking me if that project is going to continue MRGCD work on MRGCD land, except for that maybe 40 feet or so that's off MRGCD land. And just wanting to make sure that it's still on the agenda and that the work is still scheduled. That was the only question I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. I'll get with Eric and we'll discuss timing. We still support the project and we'll be involved with it. So, anybody else in the audience? Board members, any announcements while we're here? Director Dunning.
Yeah, I have a question. I got an email today from Senator Liz Stefanik that they're having workshops, that there's money available for watershed restoration. And I didn't know anything about it. And is this something that we are eligible to apply for? And tomorrow they're having, the meeting where anybody who's interested can come and learn about the RFP, but I had not heard anything about this.
Mr. Chairman, Director Dunning, today I have not heard anything about it either. I know I have staff in here that are, our conservation team director is shaking his head no, but we will be super interested to find out. Please do.
Okay. Thank you. So, moving on, Doug Stretch, you've been working on a treasure trove.
Good afternoon, Chairman Kelly.
Good afternoon.
I thank you for the opportunity to update you on a project of historic significance that intersects with the MRGCD. This is my second historic data project. The first one completed in 2009 that covered specific available historic data for the Conservancy District. This current project matches the scale and effort of the previous project, with the main exception that Ms. Cecilia Martinez Howard and I are the sole investigators and curators in the project. I'd like to acknowledge Ms. Howard and her sons, Jason and Troy, who are here with us today. This presentation is informational and contextual, intended to document stewardship efforts and historical significance rather than propose operational changes. The purpose of this presentation is to give an overview of a large historic data scanning project and my involvement with the Ross Howard Company. I had met Ross Howard in the early 2000s, near the beginning of my career here at the MRGCD, and over the years had cultivated a relationship with him and an initial understanding of his professional practice. The purpose of this presentation, this project began with a July 2025 call from Miss Cecilia Martinez Howard, widow of Ross Howard, who passed away September 11th, 2022. She offered to donate historic survey materials following the closure of the Ross Howard Company, and the request was routed through the executive office, and I offered to assist with the evaluating of the materials. Given the district's historical connections to the firm, and the materials were reviewed for preservation, digitization, and appropriate archival placement. This presentation is not intended as a comprehensive overview of everything that was held by the Ross Howard Company. It is a representative overview focused on unique and rare historical surveys and plats in New Mexico, particularly within the Miller Rio Grande Valley. This effort was made to focus on surveying records dating from the 1940s and older, as well as other records of historical interest. An intentional decision was made to prioritize uniqueness and evidentiary value over volume, which required discarding many routine or duplicative records. This includes urban renewal projects, infrastructure, and other surveying projects that impact neighborhoods, infrastructure, and rights-of-way projects. That professional legacy is reflected not only in early boundary surveys, but also in later planning materials that document mid-20th century urban change that illustrates how survey work supported community planning. Here we have the redevelopment of the South Borealis area where we are today. The Borealis Industrial Park materials document survey and planning work tied to industrial redevelopment, access, and land use with an established neighborhood south of downtown Albuquerque. The slide on the right shows the location of the MRGCD General Office. These surveys relate to the street and right-of-way acquisitions, and again show how survey records supported infrastructure and access decisions along several longstanding or within several longstanding neighborhoods. After seeing a few of these representative samples, it's worth stepping back for a moment to explain why these records matter beyond their age. Each of these examples shows survey work responding to a specific moment of growth, infrastructure need, or public decision. These records here describe the progression and growth of Albuquerque. Here, this map shows survey work on the extension of Second Street from Indian School Road to the intersection of US Highway 66 and Highway 85 north of Alameda. Second Street did not exist north of Indian School in the early 1930s, and development demanded surveying to determine alignments and property acquisitions for public access. This is a detail of the previous map that shows where Second Street merged along the Alameda Drain. This is a 1948 plat that was prepared by Edmund Ross for a small subdivision in Albuquerque. It is representative of hundreds of similar surveys in the collection. Routine work at the time, but still foundational. In this case, the original drawing preserves details that were later altered in the official record version, including a spelling change to the property, which happens to be my family's. It is a small example, but illustrates how the original survey documents carry evidentiary details that can be lost or normalized over time. These are a few of the town site maps in the property of Frank Hubble in the Pajarito area of Belen in Albuquerque. This map shows the proposed alignment in 1929 of the Belen Highline Canal within Valencia County, a major piece of infrastructure of the MRGCD in Belen Division. While not all of the materials are preserved, have been preserved are the work of Ross Engineering Office and its successors, this map shows a 1935 compilation or contemplation on the location of a reservoir and power sites and a proposed diversion canal to divert water from the western slope of Colorado. This project was later realized and built as a series of tunnels known as the San Juan Chama Project, authorized in 1962. There are many supplemental maps, such as these, included in the archive. These aren't just old maps. These are working documents behind how land was divided, water was moved, and communities were planned, including work that directly intersects with the district's early history. I'm not going to walk through each of these. They are here to show the breadth and continuity of that work. This work was often done by building upon prior work within the office. The continuity of this work from Ross Howard Company goes back to Ross Bayer Engineering Office, formerly known as Ross Engineering Office. This multi-generational practice of surveying has persisted within this family. Mr. Pitt Ross. This was possible in this case through a continuous professional practice right here in New Mexico. To begin this incredible story, Mr. Pitt Ross, son of the territorial governor Edmund Gibson Ross, opened Ross Engineering Office in 1886. Mr. Ross was not only an engineer and surveyor, but he was also a notary public, bringing professionalism to the territory regarding various land transactions as an impartial witness to document signings and oaths. These are a few drawings of Mr. Ross's work with subdivisions and additions to the city of Albuquerque, with plats of the Crossan Kennedy Edition in 1890, the lands of Antonio Bratina in 1891, and the Gilbert Edition in 1906. There are hundreds of properties documented by standalone surveys as well. This is the map of Rancho del Ojo de las Yeguas from 1897. The map of Rancho del Rincon, the property of Louis Huning in Valencia from 1906, and the Bosque de los Pinos tract, the Solomon Luna Farms from 1914. In 1916, Pitt Ross, then county surveyor, compiled the first comprehensive set of Bernalillo County surveys. The maps shown here were retraced by Clarence B. Bayer in 1933 and 1934, then county surveyor, based on those 1916 maps. What those maps, if you can go back one. What these maps nicely show is what's known as the radiation method of plane table surveying, with the red lines radiating out from a single point to accurately locate property boundaries on the map. Mr. Ross also provided surveying work for court cases. Here is as part of the Chilili grant, and he continued his work as a county official notarizing other land records. This is the last map found with his signature from February of 1923. Mr. Pitt Ross passed away on March 2nd, 1925. Mr. Edmund Ross was the son of Pitt Ross, and he followed in his father's footsteps as an engineer and surveyor. Edmund Ross was instrumental in the early days of MRGCD, and in fact was responsible for the property maps and the preparation of the official plan, Volume 3, on property affected by the plan. Surveyors and engineers were treated as foundational actors and acknowledged alongside the commissioners and officers. Edmund Ross himself appears in the official plan, not as a background support staff, but as a named professional contributor responsible for core surveying and property work. On the left is the earliest noted work of Edmund Ross, plat of the lands of Jose E. Chavez in July 1909, when Mr. Ross was 22 years old. On the right is the property of Miss Lewis Huning, dated 1912. The larger subdivisions were then being platted and subdivided in the state, and projects outside of Albuquerque continued to expand. The plat of Netherwood Park is signed by Mr. Ross as both surveyor and the notary public. The map on the right is the San Ysidro Trading Company in Sandoval County. Edmund Ross was also a mining engineer. Here are several of his mining claim maps. Edmund Ross passed away on November 14th, 1965. There are other significant holdings within the Ross Howard Company, and they include hundreds of old Spanish land grant maps. Many of these are drawn on linen. Here we have the Ojo de Borrego, the San Clemente, the Pueblo of Isleta, Taos Pueblo, and the Manzano grant depicted. These maps are derivatives of the original town of Atrisco grant, showing the allotments derived from that original grant. Other maps of historic significance are the U.S. GLO or the U.S. General Land Office reconnaissance maps from the late 1800s. These maps provided some of the first documented evidence of features in the landscape of New Mexico. If you could, you can note the similarities of the reconnaissance map in the upper right and the approved sectional map below it. There are noted similarities between the reconnaissance map and what was published. Other selected records also exist in the archive. Here we have Midway Place, Banner Square, and University Place. The center map for the old Albuquerque High School is a certificate of survey showing the site location on the corner of Central and Broadway. This database table represents the working database being used to track and manage the thousands of scanned survey records. It allows for broad access and searchability while reserving the physical preservation of efforts for truly unique and irreplaceable originals. These records have moved from being historically interesting to being institutionally significant. The Ross companies weren't documenting history after the fact. They were actively shaping the area's foundation through property and survey work. While many surveyors passed through the doors of the Ross Company, here are a few stamps within the collection to recognize their contributions to the profession. It is important to also recognize the contributions of Mr. Edmund Ross to the formation of the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District. Mr. Ross was significant in providing professional direction and guidance to the district and was one of the primary reasons for my involvement. Here is a photograph of the Ross Engineering Office that was within the collection and dated February 6th, 1926 at the intersection of Railroad Avenue, which is now Central, and First Street. A fortunate and surprising coincidence, when I took the photograph out to scan it, on the back of the photo provides the context. Exactly 100 years ago, last Friday, the Ross Engineering Office began work on the Conservancy District project. I want to acknowledge Miss Cecilia Martinez Howard, who is here with us today. She and I have endeavored to preserve and record the records of her late husband's practice for the greater public benefit. Without her, this project would never have occurred. I would like to make a recommendation to the Board of Directors and formally recognizing the historical significance of the collection generously offered by Ms. Martinez Howard and Mr. Ross Howard's role in the preservation of these records and the district's commitment to stewardship. To clarify what this is not a transfer of district records. It is not a legal or policy action. It is not evaluation or appraisal of the records that we have retained, but it is informational and historical only for the public benefit. In closing, the important story of the district is written in surveys and engineering work that spans the Middle Rio Grande Valley. This preservation effort tells the story of that effort. These records connect us to our past. Thank you. And I stand for questions.
Thank you, Doug. That was a wow. Director Dunning.
So I met Miss Martinez Howard at the at one of the Corrales events that we had. And she told me about this project and I just thought it was great. And there was sort of a serendipitous thing that she managed to get together with Doug, who actually saw the value of this. Because if I remember correctly, some others like, oh, no, you know. And I'm so thankful that this didn't end up in the dump. And thank you, Doug, for the work that you did. I think it's invaluable. I just can't thank you enough. But thank you to the family. This is great. Probably 6 months or so, and I really, really appreciate it. I'll not find it. I do this with my Wednesdays like that.
Well, Doug, you know, I see professional surveyor number one. Licensed engineer also. What a line of engineers and surveys in the family. And I'm glad we're able to preserve some of that history. You know, and come budget process, we probably need to take a look at archival storage for a lot of the records we have here in addition to these. You know, they're all in the same building and I don't know what the state of the practice is for long-term storage of these types of records, but we should look into that. But
Chairman Kelly, I have reached out to the Centers for our Southwest Research, part of the Zimmerman archives, and as well as others, and we are actively engaged in doing that.
Good, good. So, well, most of all, on behalf of the board, Ms. Howard, thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, so while Amanda's going to grab a photo, there was a slide in there that talked about honoring this family. And so in the effort of taking a photo now, Amanda, real quick, in the effort of taking a photo now, I do think what Cecilia has done and what she's made available to us, the recognition should, in my proposal to the board, should be formalized in a formal proclamation of recognizing not only Cecilia, but the whole body of work that you have made available. So that was one of the things that Doug and I talked about. And so if the board is amenable, my desire is that this board will recognize this family by proclamation at the March board meeting as a recognition for one, Cecilia, for making these records available, but then also the nature that your family has meant to the whole valley and ultimately to the district. So it sounds like the board is on board with that. And so I would love for you guys to get a photo now, but my hope is that you will be able to return and receive the formal proclamation of the board.
Say thank you to you because I contacted you initially and left the message that you put me in touch with Doug. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. This is the kind of project that you're going to remember well into retirement, I'm sure. Okay, we have our reports from the Department of Interior. Bureau of Reclamation is John here today? Okay. Patrick Tabor, our friends from the BIA.
Good morning, Chairman Kelly. Good morning, board, or afternoon. It was a little hard to follow that presentation up, I think. So I definitely recognize the value of history and the records that we see there. So I'm grateful as well. I'm going to usually try to do a pretty standard presentation following on supply, delivery, operations, and maintenance. I'm going to deviate that because I believe there was a question posed to me last session to discuss some of the storage release and also a little bit of a go over the hydrograph from that happened last year, towards the end of the last year. So if we could go forward briefly. In general, the way that we, with the BIA store or PNP water, it's pretty straightforward. I receive a request from the Pueblos at the beginning of the calendar year to begin storing. We've passed that on to the Bureau of Reclamation, and the Bureau of Reclamation starts that activity. Once that water has been stored, we determine an amount based on the NRCS calculations. We do estimates from March, April, and May, with the final storage amount being completed in May. During the course of the irrigation season, we view the ODOE gauge, which is what's in the board. And then once that we reach a certain threshold that is no longer capable of, if you will, providing enough water for the prior and paramount lands, we do a prior and paramount release. At the end of the season, I receive a letter. We do receive a letter requesting the release as well. I also, at the end of the season, receive a letter requesting the release of the storage water back down into the system. And last year, I believe I was looking through the hydrograph on this. I wanted just to kind of go through, I think this was an interesting year in part, and if you'll bear with me as we go to the next slide, I'll kind of explain that a little bit more. This is an MRGCD operations. If you look farther at the upper left-hand section is where that we have the El Vado Reservoir. Below that is Abiquiu, and that's off the Rio Chama branch of the Rio Grande, or tributary of the Rio Grande. The Rio Grande continues up underneath the little New Mexico flag there, and that goes all the way into Colorado. The ODOE gauge is right there, right a little bit south of the confluence of the two, of that Rio Chama branch and the Rio Grande. And if we could go to the next slide. Again, here is that. What I thought interesting this year is that we did not start the releases of the water from the prior paramount storage until about December 1st. And that ended about December 17th. So you can see that large jump, but there was also a large jump of water that was being released. Not released, but you'll understand that later. So I looked into essentially what was happening in the hydrograph that brought the Rio Grande up a little bit as that we see through the rest of the year. Next slide. A lot of that was dominated by an October 11th and 13th storm, which hit the upper basin in Colorado. And you can see that if we go to the next slide as well, the subsequent days, there was a very high intensity rainfall event that occurred those 2 days. So if you remember, there was a sharp peak. If we can go to the next slide, you'll see that sharp peak appear in the hydrograph. This hydrograph is on the Embudo gauge, and that's strictly on the Rio Grande, north of the intersection of the Rio Chama. So you'll see that there's not that peak that I showed you around December 17th to 18th. So that peak comes the one that we saw on the Ottaway from December 1st to the 17th comes off the Rio Chama, not on the Rio Grande itself. But you will see the storm peak, but also second to that is the November 1st peak. And I think this just kind of helps illustrate the complexity of this system, is that November 1st is also the same time frame where the Colorado irrigators stop irrigating. So we can be seeing multiple inputs into the system even during an extremely dry year. And this is exclusive of the larger complexity without storage. This is a year without storage. When that we do have the storage capabilities, these hydrographs get even far more complex. Next slide. This is the one off the Rio Chama. And you can see we don't have that. We do have the small storm peak, but we don't have that follow-up enlightened height, if you will, of the releases. So that's strictly dominated by that storm peak and then by the prior and paramount water releases. So that's kind of just in general to kind of go through the hydrograph, and I hope it kind of answers the question. I did want to say that we are currently storing, and while that there is bad news from the perspective of for the prior and paramount waters, it has not been a dry year. The benefit of the warm weather has been that we do currently have in storage about 4,500 acre feet for prior and paramount waters. So the last year at this time, I believe it was far lower because there was still a lot of frozen water at that time and inability to store. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Directors, questions for Patrick and BIA? Director Huron, Director Sandoval, questions for Mr. Tabor?
Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Patrick, when we know we're definitely going to be going into P&P operations, and is there anything that once the BIA makes the release or the call for the release, do you work with the MRGCD to make sure that prior and paramount waters made it to its destination? And if not, do you think we should probably start that practice just to make sure when pueblos are calling for this water, whatever is being released is making it to the end of which we are the last pueblo on the line, making sure that all of that, whatever is being allocated for different pueblos, is making its destination?
So just to make sure that I understand the question, how are we making sure that the water that is being released is being allocated to the pueblos? Is that correct?
In short, yes, basically. But yeah, how are you following up to make sure the water that is being released when it's called for, it's making it to its destination?
When we start doing the releases of P&P water, there are almost historically when I work during the season, I will probably be starting off a Pueblo operations call almost every Tuesday, maybe more frequently. And that's during the irrigation season weekly. I'm usually in contact with individual pueblos almost on a daily, not almost, but on a daily basis during that time frame, as well as our, as well as operations here at MRGCD as well. So there is a lot of communication. I can almost guarantee that a good portion of my day is doing that, as well as addressing issues that come up, whether that's operational issues, maintenance issues, or delivery issues.
Okay, perfect. Would one of those issues be, what if we have farmers north that are, when we're in P&P ops, that are either irrigating with prior and paramount waters? Would those be some of the issues that you would also participate in with discussions with the Pueblos and the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy?
We should be made aware of those if those issues are brought up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Director Huron. Jason, do you have anything to add here on the hydrographs, or is this?
No, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I'll add is to the director's last question. That's not been a widespread problem. The Valley pretty much understands what it means to be, especially when we're curtailing north of Isleta Pueblo, and we spend a tremendous amount of time making sure that system is off for all non-tribal users when that curtailment goes out. It's a fundamental requirement of our contract to do that. So that is not historically, at least in my tenure at the district, been a problem.
I've only been here a limited time, but I would have to agree.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for your report, Patrick.
Thank you.
Richard, we have 3 items to consider here. Let's start with the Acequia Madre project. You have an award of contract.
Yes, hello, Chairman Kelly, members of the board. I'm here to present for approval for the Trisco Acequia Madre project phase 1 through the intergovernmental agreement with Bernalillo County. MRGCD staff is recommending award to Lopez Precision for the amount of $207,823.88 with tax. This project will be awarded through the MRGCD contractors on-call contracts, which were obtained through the request for proposals process in 2025. I can stand for any questions on the procurement.
Directors, any questions?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion.
I second.
We have a motion, a second. Roll call vote on this. Director Huron?
Yes.
Director Sandoval?
Yes.
Director Russo-Baca?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Director Dunning?
Yes.
Director Lopez?
Yes.
Project is awarded, and I see our contractor is in the audience today, and I won't ask him the same question because he wouldn't have given us such a good bid if he wasn't ready to get the project done. And but I note you exclude dewatering. What's the chances of needing dewatering in this when we start digging there and the river comes up? Well, the river's not going to come up this year, so.
Mr. Chairman, we're expecting this work will be done long before we see significant water in the river. And to your point, water running off already. So, Mr. Chairman, I will ask the question: is this when we tackled an update on the Acequia Madre public meeting? Do we want to do that now,
or do you want to do that right now? Okay. Since we're there, so the audience knows we're beginning the portion of the work at the site under our cost share with the city of Albuquerque. So proceed on the public meeting.
Under our cost share with Bernalillo County.
Yeah, Bernalillo County.
Yeah. So, and just as a reminder, this is for just a very small piece of the project, which is the extension of the box culvert. But last Thursday, MRGCD staff, along with Bernalillo County, Commissioner Barbara Baca, City of Albuquerque staff hosted a public meeting and just kind of updating on this Trisco Madre project. As a reminder for the board, there was a master plan done with this project. That master plan was presented to the board. This board of directors actually adopted that master plan. And so one of the things that I think is important and important, especially to, I think, the comments that were provided by Jorge recently, is that what overwhelmingly came out of this is the desire for education and acequia culture to be foremost in this area. But one of the things I think action item that came out of that, to ensure that we can do that, there's an unanswered question. And that unanswered question pertains to the master plan, where it specifically says future connection, future connection. So one of the things that I took away from that meeting is that we need to ensure that those future connection sites are actually folded into the project area as a whole now. Because in the developing of the master plan, it considers the use of those areas, but this phase 1A project was really designed without those in mind because we don't have access to those yet. So these two future connection areas are owned by the city of Albuquerque, specifically within the purview of the Metropolitan Redevelopment Agency portion of the city of Albuquerque. And so I know that this along Central, if you recall, there's this redevelopment corridor on Central, and some of these properties look targeted for that. And while there's nothing else official out right now, there has been chatter about these two properties being used for something with more dense development as part of that redevelopment project. What came out of that public meeting was from both the neighborhood associations, from CESOS, even from MRGCD, because of the master plan approved by this board, was the desire to ensure that these properties are cohesive to this master plan project. And so in providing this update to the board, my proposal to the board is I think that we need to shift to a very specific interaction with the city. And that's what we talked to the community about, making sure that those community neighborhood associations and the attendees there really want to make it known and really need to make it known that this is the desire of the public and the desire of partner agencies that these properties are available. And so if the board will entertain, I would like to suggest the board we delegate this issue to the urban committee, specifically to address two letters, one to the mayor, Mayor Keller, and one to the city council, expressing a desire for these properties to be used as the master plan committed. And the city of Albuquerque is a partnering agency on this project as well. And because it's really hard to go forward, we want to get this box culvert done. But what I also found out, it's really hard to go forward with this phase 1 because for the rest of the construction of it, because it has such implications if those other two properties are not available. And I asked a very specific question. If we knew that those properties were available when this phase 1A design went out, would the designer have approached that design differently? And the answer was yes. And so there are many different ideas about what this should look like, but the universal idea is that it is a community space honoring community and honoring bringing community together as a Saikia culture does. And I think it's incumbent upon us to go get the answer to that question before we spend too much time going further, so that we're spending these dollars the right way and seek out getting the answer to the question of, are these properties going to be folded into this overall Saikia Madre project? With that, Mr. Chair, I'll stand for questions.
Director's questions, Director Dunning.
Thank you, Chair Kelly. You know, I remember, because it's been going on for a couple of years, and it was a different director of the Metropolitan Redevelopment Agency at the time. But there was something about, because it was acquired with the Metropolitan Redevelopment funds, they have to use it in a way that fits within metropolitan redevelopment, which education doesn't. And so I wondered if and I don't know that we have any, but if there was some way there could be a land exchange, if that ends up being the barrier, that they have a legal requirement that they can't, would there be, is there any possibilities for like a land exchange?
Mr. Chairman, Director Dunning, I'm always happy to entertain that if we get to there. The interesting about that is the public body. I think that's why we're approaching, and we should approach the mayor's office and the city council, because the public body who makes those rules, I think, does have the ability, as this body does at times, to look at unique areas and then act according to the authority that they have. And I would not expect MRA to act that way because they're bound by those policies, and they're bound to speak those policies to us. And that's why I think, based on this community discussion, really reaching out and letting the elected officials who represent the people that were showing up to this public meeting. And it's incumbent upon us to let them know. And there is work that's taking place among multiple neighborhood associations to get some information in. Amanda Molina is helping them on the talking points for specific letters being written to make sure, and this is not meant to be a negative interaction with the city, because I don't know how much those elected officials even know yet. I will say this, we do have Councilor Baca's backing on this. This is his district. And so we do have a champion on city council for this, but it's just hard for me to continue viewing and trying to plan for this Acequia Madre project when, like, I don't want to build something that we regret that we would have done something differently if all of a sudden we get those other two properties and we're like, man, we just spent this money and we wish we could have had a different vision altogether. And again, I look, I know Jorge's in the audience, and Jorge got up and provided a lot of public comment to that. And I think that was the view of the public there, is let's be careful about going so far down that we invest in something here outside of this box culvert, because we need the box culvert extension regardless of what we do. And it is good government, I think, to ask this question, good government to go ask our partners who were also part of the master plan to say, you know, are we doing this? And quite frankly, no, we should be doing this. There are a lot of other pieces. Let's just uniquely locate this area. It's next to the Bosque. It's next to an area that is well known in Albuquerque that brings a lot of public in. And if you're looking at a good entryway, if you're driving along Central and you want to talk about an economic development, if you're driving along Central on this and you're going past that, what a gateway into the culture along Central, but then giving a place for these development areas to come to and these green spaces. So anyway, I was, the comments from the public were very thoughtful. There wasn't negative energy there and people upset. There was a desire to communicate, though, that the community here wants to control the destiny of this area.
So Jason, I assume there were city staffers at this meeting?
Mr. Chairman, there were multiple city staffers. There was also some staffers from the city council themselves, and some planners from the city council there as well.
So a letter to the mayor and to the council president would not be a surprise to anybody?
I don't believe it would be a surprise, and I think the tone of the letter would be not hostile. So even if for some reason it's not on their radar, but again, knowing that Councilor Baca was there, I would be shocked that this is not on their radar. And I know that Commissioner Barbara Baca has also been having conversations with the county, from the county perspective to the city. And I think it's just time to push to get an answer to these questions.
Chair Kelly.
Vice Chair.
Thanks, sir. Jason, you said it was really well attended and that the community is really kind of a robust support of this. I remember a year ago, kind of the welcoming of the Primera Agua in this area. That was a discussion where this is one of many events that we hope to have. And then it started off into the conversations of what it would look like. And it does seem very fitting that the district involves itself with this. What is the timeline that was being thrown around? So if you want us to come to the Urban Issues Committee, we want to get it back. Did they say that they're breaking ground on stuff, or that everything's on pause because these two future properties need to get rolled?
No. Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman Ba, great question. I think we're in plenty of time. Again, I know that there are ideas out there. I think where I'm concerned about is if the city goes much further into exploring and spending resources to explore what these properties could be. I think that's important that we intercept that process soon. There was discussion at the public meeting about using Prima Agua this year as kind of a way to get public notice about this, which I'm all for. The problem is the question is Jason, is March 22nd going to work? And I don't know if we can have water there, quite frankly. And that was unfortunately my answer to them was, Jason, can you have water here? And it's like so we're going to work with our staff and we're going to work with the staff to see if either through drain flows or something we can get water there. I'm trying to answer that question. But as a matter of, is everything going to be functioning? And am I going to have enough water and to all the way to be diverting at Angostura and pushing water here? I have no idea at this time. So I think we're in plenty of time because there's no imminent construction on those other properties, nor is there a plan yet. And so I think it is the right opportunity to jump in there, and we have the right people in the right places, both at MRGCD, the county, and the city of Albuquerque, especially on the council. MRGCD has a meeting with Terry Bruner on Tuesday, specifically about an easement for the entrance at the signal. And I will also be making Terry available, if the board is okay with that, of this desire to have a broader conversation and answer this question about the availability of these two properties to be folded into the project.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think it's a really good role for the district to help highlight back to the city what the founding belief of what the district really was around economic development of place and shared identities through multiple uses of place. So this is a great project to be a part of.
So again, board, just to make sure I'm understanding, I am authorized to take this to the urban committee, develop those letters. Is the board okay if because again, the board has already adopted the master plan. You've already adopted the idea that you want these properties. Do we need to bring that letter back to the board, or can the urban committee
I will defer to the committee to be sure all the right things are said and rubber stamp what you provide.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Funny how these little projects have this big political cloud hanging over them. Okay. Let's talk about invasive species removal.
Yes. Chairman Kelly, members of the board. Next up, I present for approval for the New Berlin Invasive Species Material Processing Project. MRGCD staff is recommending award to Forrester and Associates for Phase 2 and Phase 3, totaling $100,615.34, including tax, funded through the Interstate Stream Commission Grant G3753. This will be awarded through State of New Mexico Price Agreement contract, and I can stand for any questions on the procurement. Thank you.
Did Forrester complete Phase 1?
Chairman Kelly, members of the board, let me ask Joe to come up and discuss that. She's chair on that one.
Chairman Kelly, members of the board, yes, they did. They completed Phase 1, which was the mechanical and hand crew removal of the invasive species in that area. Originally, we had planned to bring in our tub grinder, but due to one of the turns in the neighborhood, we could not get it into that area. So now we will bring them back in to process the material. And it was in your board memo. We broke it up into 2 stages just because we're coming up on Migratory Bird Treaty Act. And so the first stage, they will move all the piles all the materials moved into areas that avoided the native grasses. So in Phase 2, they will move all those areas into 2 staging areas, one north and kind of south, and then they will get chipped and Solutions will remove all of the materials. So we won't be leaving it on the ground. It'll go into the composting and we should be ready to start getting this native.
So Joe, my question, let me rephrase it. Did they do a good enough job to go ahead and award Phase 2 and 3?
Yes, we had Jason out there just a few weeks ago. And I mean, I think they did beautifully out there. Again, everything was stacked in a way that all of the natives were left and really can thrive. So that's why I wanted it out of there so they can get going and seeding out.
Mr. Chairman, if we were unsatisfied, we would not be bringing this to you right now.
And Jason, it's my role as a board member to ask these kinds of questions.
Mr. Chairman, that was not a review. That was not a review.
You know, I will do that on occasion, but thank you for your recommendation, Joe. And Karen, are you going to make a motion after?
I will after a comment. The comment was, and I realize it's family name, but I thought, do they get extra points because their name is Forrester?
So I was like, and then I started getting emails from multiple people, and that's when I realized that is the family name. Yeah.
Yep.
So
That's a B.
And I make a motion to approve this contract.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
Second from Director Russo-Baca. Roll call vote. Director Huron.
Yes.
Director Sandoval.
Yes.
Yes.
Director Russo-Baca. Chair votes yes. Vice Chair.
Yes.
Director Dunning.
Yes.
Director Lopez.
Yes.
Okay, we're awarded.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, John. And thank you, Mike. Okay. Let's pray for a dry subgrade. Okay, Christy, you have some new hires to introduce.
Thank you, Chairman Kelly, members of the board. I'm here to introduce new hires and any personnel changes. And today we have the Blend Division in the spotlight, where we have Ricardo Rios has promoted to heavy equipment operator, and we have hired Anthony Padilla as our service technician. And for my second item, we are notifying the board and for a matter of record that Eric Zamora, Director of Technical Services, has informed the district of his intent to retire effective this May 2026. Given that this is a key leadership role, the district has begun active recruitment efforts to ensure continuity and a smooth transition. Staff will keep the board informed as the process moves forward. For that, I stand for questions.
Mr. Chair, I had the same reaction.
I will not interpose an objection, but I would like it noted on the record that if I were queen for a day, I would say no.
And if I was king for a day, I might not be so harsh, but I'd say that siphon pipe has to come out of the ground on both sides of the river before you can retire. And I'll look to your engineer to confirm that's going to happen. So, Chrissy, thank you for report. Eric, don't worry. We'll have plenty of time to roast you for the next 3 or 4 months. And but congratulations. You've put in a career of public service, and the district has been the benefit of a major portion of your career. So thank you. Oh, yeah, we can't talk about it. Okay, moving along here. Casey, update on an RFP for a habitat conservation plan.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is a brief update, and actually since the BO committee has now been staffed, I actually have really more of a question for those folks than anything else. So a quick recap, per the settlement that MRGCD was a party to with the federal government and Wild Earth Guardians, we are pursuing new consultation and coverage for threatened and endangered species within the Middle Valley. The district has taken the position, and the federal government has since given us the go-ahead that we think a habitat conservation plan, unique conservation plan to the district, is the path forward for our necessary compliance that covers all the different actions that we have on the river, whether that's diversion, storage, but also allows us to implement mitigation actions for those. So my question is, we have a RFP that is ready to go out onto the street. Staff has generated the RFP. Our procurement officer has prepared the document packet. The timing of that is we were hoping to get that out February 13th of this year, but I recognize we have a brand new committee that's just been staffed and who has not had a chance to review that. So my question is, would you like a chance to review that before it goes out, or would you like us to stick with the schedule as it's currently slated to go out on the 13th of this month?
Let me ask another question first. Who do you intend to have as your selection advisory committee to review and evaluate those proposals?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subcommittee was, especially now that I know who it is, will be part of that, along with myself and probably the CEO.
Do you have somebody from outside the agency that you could invite outside the district that would?
Mr. Chair, the problem is if you invite them to review them, the company might not, because a lot of that expertise for HCPs resides out in the private sector.
No, I'm thinking of other agencies.
So again, the other side of that is, well, no, because we wouldn't have put the whole HCP together. Mr. Chairman, can I think about that?
Please do. I think on something this big, having members of the selection committee other than all district employees or board members would be good to for our selection process.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, if I may, and Casey, if I may, I think it's worthwhile to get the scope of work and the RFP into the committee's hands, and maybe answer any questions you have about what an HCP is and how is that uniquely different than a Section 7A consultation that we did under the federal government. I do think it would be worthwhile to answer those questions. Even if that delays us a little bit on putting it out, because I do think it is unique. And while I'm 100% supportive of the HCP, and I think the district is prepared to do that, it is incumbent upon us to ensure that you as the board understand the same value that we as a staff believe that the HCP has going forward for us compared to a Section 7A consultation.
So what comes out of the selection committee is a top-ranked firm that you then negotiate a contract with.
That's correct.
So I see you have plenty of time to take the committee input into the ultimate goal, which is the contract, not the RFP. So I would move with your existing schedule and get this out the door and do some of these things concurrently. But you've got a 60-day process here, and it's not just about the RFP, it's about the contract and the scope of services.
Mr. Chairman, we can do that.
And committee, you're all here. Mr. Denning.
Mr. Chair, I agree with that. I don't think the process should be held up, but it would be nice as a member of the committee to get a copy of the RFP, not because, to make changes, but that'll help us understand as this moves forward, especially if we're going to be on a selection advisory committee.
Do you, Casey, do we have, I think we put together something about the difference between and the HCP and the Section 7 and the benefits. Don't we have that in writing?
Yeah, we do. And I can
provide that to them as well with a copy of the RFP.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say for the record, we're going down a route that's a big deal. The amount of investment that we'll make on an HCP is a big deal, but the benefits to it are a big deal that we will talk about in upcoming board meetings. I just want to say that because it's important that we go on record. Casey and I believe that this route offers exceedingly larger benefits than and where the district can control its own destiny with how we mitigate our actions compared to being under a federal Section 7A, which is under Reclamation's banner.
So one final question, Casey, what kind of interest, how many proposals do you expect to receive on this?
Mr. Chair, through several other ongoing large-scale projects that have been going on in the Valley, I've been able to ask softly, if there's interest, regionally in this, and I expect we'll get at least 4 or 5, if not more, from some national competitors as well.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Eric. Oh, yeah, man. You haven't retired yet.
Just didn't work.
But you know what? You're at a point where delegating work is wonderful, and I love seeing our engineering staff up here, and I might even have a few questions as we go along. On Hill, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman Kelly, members of the board. I'm Angel Madera, and today myself and the engineering department will be updating you all on our construction off-season projects. This slide is just an overview of some of the projects that we'll be presenting today. Slide, please. The first project I'll be presenting on will be the Socorro Main Canal Channel Lining Phase 2 project. Currently, they've installed one mile of concrete canvas. They've installed all the concrete turnout structures, and then the turnout gate should be installed this week. They're finishing up on the shotcrete channel lining work, and all in-channel work should be completed by the end of this week. And for look ahead, they'll be finishing all miscellaneous out-of-channel items, and we should be having a in-channel walkthrough on February 16th just to make sure they have all the in-channel work completed. Next slide, please. On the top left, you'll see a picture of some of the installed concrete canvas. On the bottom left, you'll see the long crested weir that was installed with some of the shotcrete around it, tying into the concrete canvas. And on the right side, you'll see some of the shotcrete that's being placed. Next slide, please. The next project I'll be presenting is the Belen High Lane Canal Overflow Structure number 2. The progress for this project, Lopez Precision has finished pouring all the in-channel sections as well as the overflow steps. They finished that last Friday. Currently, they're working on the concrete landing pad at the bottom of the overflow structure. Look ahead for this project, they'll finishing up backfill and just cleanup work. That's going to commence at the end of this week. Next slide, please. So on the top left, we can see some of the rebar that they've placed before the placement of the shotcrete of the steps. On the bottom left corner and the top right corner, we can see them placing that shotcrete on the steps and the top section of the overflow. And then on the bottom right corner, you can see the placed shotcrete of the overflow structure. Next slide, please. All right, now I will pass it on to Antoinette.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So first project I'll be presenting will be the low flow conveyance channel phase 2. This was awarded to CF Padilla. The original contract quantity is for 7 miles. Current progress is about 7.5 miles done for mowing and dredging and about 43 acres of clearing and grubbing. Look ahead is be able to finish the entire 7.87 miles of mowing and dredging and 47.8 acres of clearing and grubbing by end of February. Pictures shown are pictures provided by Director Lopez, which were taken last week. Next project is Loretto Road project. Bid opening was conducted on February 2nd. We received 1 bid for the project, which is currently under review and under negotiation. Lastly, Feeder 3, Phase 1, which is awarded to AUI. They mobilized on January 19th. Pipe delivery was done on January 22nd. They started in-channel work the 3rd week of January, and they should be done with all in-channel work by March 1st. Look ahead schedule. They're planning to start the trenchless water line installation starting at NM 109 this week. Once completed, they will move to Highway 116. They're also currently doing the 6-inch thick concrete lining and construction of the concrete dissipation structure cast in place. And then picture on the left is AUI working on the concrete channel lining, doing the subgrade prep. Picture in the middle is the pipe laid out for Highway 116, getting ready for the jack and bore. And lastly, the picture on the very right is the concrete dissipation structure. And now I will pass it on to Angelina.
Hi, good afternoon, Chairman Kelly and directors of the board. My name is Angelina Jimenez. I'm an engineer for the district, and I will begin presenting on the Atrisco Acequia Madre project. As mentioned earlier by Jason, this is a project where we do have partner agencies, so Bernalillo County, City of Albuquerque Open Space, and the Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority. So the current updates, as of today, MRGCD has received the 100% construction plans from Bernalillo County. And as previously presented for approval and approved, this board meeting was the phase 1 for the concrete box culvert extension for Lopez Precision. And third is the mentioned earlier also by Mr. Kasuga was the public meeting on February 5th, which also had attendees from the public, so the neighborhood associations and our acequia associations at this meeting, where Site Southwest and MRGCD presented on how crucial it is to construct the vital culvert crossing or the concrete box culvert that will provide future access and more access to this open space area. Next slide, please. For the division projects that are currently ongoing, for the Cochiti division is the culvert replacement in the East Cochiti main canal. And the picture shown to the right is the previously that the previous culvert that had existed. So we did replace this due to a culvert failure on the upstream side. We will provide further photos in the next board meeting, but currently the Cochiti division has placed the new pipe with backfill and are currently awaiting rebar delivery. Next slide. By our Albuquerque division is the culvert crossing replacement and off of Tribal Road 7 in the Peralta Main Canal. This is the replacement with a 142-inch by 91-inch CMP pipe of 60-foot length. This was recently completed last Friday. The photos shown on the screen are also done by our Albuquerque division. For the clearing and grubbing of the Albuquerque Riverside drain, including maintenance bank buildup. The photo on the left shows the before photo of the project, and the photo on the right is the after effects. Next slide, please. Thank you. And the photo shown on the slide is the Belen division placing the replacement of the 72-inch CMP pipe within the new Belen Wasteway. This is a segment of the facility that is entirely pipelined, and in the last season, this segment of this stretch of the facility had failed, and our Belen division has now been completed with this project. They have completed. Next slide, please. These photos are we also included in the presentation. These were taken by Director Lopez during his site visit in the Socorro division. I will pass it to Director Lopez if you have any additional comments to these photos shown on the screen.
Yes, these are just a couple of culvert replacements and close to my house. They were rotted out and needed to be replaced. The picture on the bottom right is they dredged out the main canal between Brown Arroyo and San Antonio. I can't see the other one. Oh, and there's another picture up there that's it's just fallow land that's not part of the fallow program. It's just they've sold the water rights off of it, and that's what it looks like now.
They're growing tumbleweeds.
They're growing. Yeah, that picture is not the bad one. There's another picture that was in there that tumbleweeds are 10 foot tall and blowing into the canals.
Thank you, Director.
Oh, sorry, Chuck. Yeah. Was that culvert installed that day? It looks like. Is that the same one?
Yeah, they get in first thing in the morning and they're done by 2 o'clock.
And those are the frames that we made at the yard.
That's it. Yeah, they pre-make the concrete yeah, I think they completed all the installations of all the turnouts that needed to be installed this winter.
Are we planning on lining that main canal where it's dredged right now eventually, or is that?
Hopefully one of these days.
This will be about phase 10.
My area.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's the cold medicine. I don't know if this is part of the channel lining project or not. I apologize. I'll let Mr. Zamora speak to
So
that.
Director Lopez, I do have a question for you. Did you bring the guys burritos?
No.
Next time you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to reiterate, this is our Socorro division.
Yes.
Okay, next slide. And that is all we have for this presentation today. I will now stand for questions.
Thank you all. Questions from the board? Director Dunning.
So this problem property with all the tumbleweeds, do we have any, I mean, I know if it's the following program, then we could say you don't get your money but if it's somebody that sold their water rights and, they just have tumbleweeds growing, do we have any recourse or is there anything we can do?
So Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I think we could, and here's how. I think one, there could be local ordinances passed by the county to do that, but also these lands fall within the benefited area. And so it would be an interesting conversation, I think, to have. Land still falls within the benefited area. That property being allowed to overgrow and with the weeds and the potential maintenance issues that then come when winds blow those weeds off. It'd be interesting to see if we could, since that land is still within the benefited area, have MRGCD policy written to affect that. That would be a legal question posed to our lawyer who's frowning right now, but I still think it is a worthwhile question because about the only way we can affect it outside of that is through our fallowing program. You take our money, you do that, but that property still does pay an ad valorem tax to us, whether they've severed their water rights. So I think it is a worthwhile question to ask and the research be done whether or not for property whose water rights are sold off, if there is a way the district could have, or there could be implications through board policy on whether or not those weeds have to be maintained. Because they do and they can pose a major issue. And then if a plug happens on weeds that blew off somebody else's property, who's responsible for that? So I know she was frowning at me, but I still think it's a worthwhile question.
We'll follow up in executive session on that one, I think would be best. Director Huron, Director Sandoval, any questions or comments at this point?
Not right now, Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have any questions either.
Okay, well, the chair has a question for Angel. And I'll look over there at the two engineers involved too. What is the mode of failure for the concrete canvas? And how are we geared up to address that? I mean, it's a product that this is one of the first big uses of it in the state, as I understand. And maybe we don't have to answer that question today, but as we build things, we also got to think about fixing them. I assume you have concrete canvas in our inventory. Is that like a sack of concrete, though, that 5 years from now, when you need it, it's going to already be cured and hard because of the moisture in the air? Or
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the mode of failure, I mean, to answer the original question, is likely going to be through our dredging operations, basically a tear or puncture. There are mechanisms and techniques that the manufacturer has recommended for making repairs, and they're as simple as patching the damaged area with a new piece of concrete, gluing it down, screwing it in, and curing it. Long term, we will have to maintain some of this material in stock, and as long as we keep it in a dry and secured area, it should be fine for like a typical bag of Quikrete. If you leave it out in the sun and the rain, it's going to harden up. If you keep it in a dry spot, you'll keep it for a few years.
Okay. Well, just seeing a new product out there, but good photos, everybody. And again, you've got what, $28 million going on right now. And but hopefully we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel, and you all deserve a week off after this year's construction season. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. On that note, before the staff sits down, I just really wanted to, hats off to the staff and the division managers for taking advantage of this good weather and getting all this work in place. And thanks to our consultants for helping us out. Again, a lot of work, but the downside of no snow is good weather to build stuff. So we'll take the wins when we can get them. We do have an update on the Corral siphon. With me also today is Dan Aguita and Luke Smith from Wilson and Company, our consultants on the project. I just wanted to start with where we started late last year. We started with the project, and the first phase of the project, first significant phase of the project, was the installation of that 6-foot steel pipe that you see there. That's essentially a pilot hole for the drilling operations, for lack of a better term. You can see the big hydraulic or pneumatic hammer that's basically driving that casing into a bed of dirt. So as the casings go in, it's filling with material. And so the further you go in, the harder it is to drive that steel pipe. Next slide. The next phase of the operation was the installation after the conductor casing was installed. Installation of the tracks for the augering operation. Next slide. And this is the augering operation. That's about a 4 or 5 foot diameter auger that goes on the end of that little machine there to your left. That's blue. That basically cleans out the material from inside the conductor casing. You drive the screw in there, and it pushes out the dirt, if you will. And it's excavated and set off to the side there. You can see where the bucket is up on top of the hill. Next slide. And so that's a section of the auger being drilled into place and removing the material within the conductor casing. And this is where we ran into the issue. This operation. We installed a conductor casing to its plan length, and then started cleaning out the material from within the casing. And at this point, when we were about 180 feet in the hole, that big auger got stuck. We're unsure because it's 180 foot down and about down pipe and about 18 feet, 19 feet below grade. We don't know what happened with did we hit rock? Did we hit one of the pylons that served as or the posts that served as the anchor points for the old siphon? We don't know. We hit something, and now the auger is stuck. The contractor broke some equipment trying to retrieve it. Next slide. And this is how we knew we were going to be stuck. We developed this sinkhole as well. So this is right at the end of the conductor casing, right at the edge of the river on the west side. And that's as far as we've gotten with the project to date. Right now, we've just approved a change order to address what we're going to do with the conductor casing that was installed. And basically, we're going to fill it with grout. We're working on options to address the sinkhole as well. Next slide. And so what I'm showing you here is a schematic of a solution to the issue that we ran into. The The alignment on top where you can see the dashed line, that's the original alignment of the new siphon. The green blob there is essentially the sinkhole. And right at the end of the the design installation of the conductor casing. What you see highlighted in purple there is a potential, and the vertical scale is really exaggerated, so don't take it with a grain of salt. It's only 12 degrees. It's 2 degrees steeper than what was originally designed. The original one was at 10. This is proposed as 12-degree installation. But the idea now is to drill or install a new conductor casing and basically start the drilling operation a little bit to the upstream of the old conductor casing and maybe go a little deeper with the siphon install. We're working through that change order right now with the contractor. And I think we don't have any more updates than to say that we are evaluating a change order that was submitted. We've sent some information back to the contractor for some additional information and for some information that's more in compliance with the contract requirements. So that's kind of it. Dan, do you have anything else to add?
Rick's work going on the east side.
Mr. Chairman, Jason, yes, we are working on the east side. We have a bypass pipe that's being installed to basically divert water from irrigation operations during the irrigation season. New turnouts that were in the plan have been installed. And so we are continuing to work on the east side, on the Sandia side.
Director's questions, Director Dunning?
This isn't not a question, but I think and you probably have already planned this. I don't know if you've met with the new mayor of Corrales. But I think, folks from Corrales come here, they're not engineers, and they're like, why isn't this done? And, and I think that it behooves us to have like a Corrales meeting and update them on how this is a real challenging project and we're doing the best we can. And, just giving them kind of the same update that we get.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, Director Dunning, we're doing that. I'm just hesitant to release any board updated materials when I haven't updated you yet. And so we have been in contact with Cross. I have committed to giving the materials for an update, but I want to make sure that you as a board have the update before everybody else does.
Thank you.
And Director Dunning, we also need to be mindful that we're negotiating a change order that's probably one of those ouch factors. And we need to be careful what we say in the public that may or may not impact those negotiations. Is our contractor asking for additional time?
Mr. Chairman, the contractor has not requested specifically any additional time at this point, but we think there maybe do some time. But right now, the cost component is what we're focused on.
And this is a unit price contract.
Correct.
And Jason's signature or change order approval authority is if it's an existing bid item, he can increase the quantity of it, however is required to finish the job so it functions the way it's supposed to.
If it's a major bid item, in other words, an item that is about 10% of the overall contract, then that price can be renegotiated up to 25%, I believe.
Okay. But essentially, this change order does not have to come back to the board. Jason can sign it. And time is of the essence of this project, as we all know. And Finance Committee, Jason and I have talked about funding a surprise like this without impacting other projects. And we may well need to look into our endowment fund to do this without impacting other projects, and then look at a schedule to reimburse the endowment fund. But for this kind of work, this is worse than a house remodel. You start digging stuff up and drilling in there, and that auger itself is not a cheap piece of metal sitting down there in the hole to be filled with grout. This.
Give that keeps on giving.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, we will keep moving forward. If I'm being honest with you, depending on the size of that change order, I don't know what that size is yet, but I depending on what the size of that for my own sake, I may at least reach out to the finance committee prior to going. I know that I have large authority when it comes to an existing construction project, but we don't have that number yet. And we know that time is of the essence. I think our engineering contractor knows that. This was why we gave a 1-year construction timeframe. All the way to December to be able to hit problems. If everything went well, they could have probably gotten the boring done much sooner. So I'm not super concerned yet from a December finishing timeframe, but we need to, and we are acting, as you can see, to try to identify a shifting of that angle a little bit and getting back to work. But at this point, they're not idle. They have some work that they could be doing, but it would be sure nice to get them remowed back out there and driving a pipe sooner than later.
Eric, you've got a May deadline on getting that pipe.
Message received.
Now, thank you for the report, Dan and Luke. Thanks for being here today. This is something it's foreseeable, but it's pretty hard to design around. What are you gonna hit? What are you gonna find out until you get there? So,
Mr. Chairman, I will just add, just for commentary, is that this isn't. I've worked a lot of different types of projects here in Bernalillo County primarily, and this isn't a bridge project. This isn't a road widening project or even a minor utility project. This is a regionally significant project. It's a big project. It's nothing that you see happen every day in any part of the U.S. And so for a project like this to encounter an issue is not, especially in underground construction, is not unusual. You do the best planning that you can do. But when you hit those unforeseen circumstances, you just work through it. And that's where we're at right now.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay. See. Pam, you have a couple three resolutions in front of us. And then I'm going to do the report from the Finance Committee. We are looking at a resolution establishing a debt policy for the MRGCD. This is something that's come up through a review of our practices and policies as part of our budgeting process that is a hole in our current system. We've never ran into an issue with regard to the amount of debt or the debt we've taken on to buy equipment or projects. But it is something we should have, and Pam's done some research and has discovered way back in our the original plan for the district that our debt was limited to the assessed valuation of the properties within the 4 counties, within the benefited area. If I got that right. Anyway, $20-some million. That does, in the day. We're nowhere near that limit that does exist. But How they determined that could be questioned. Then they excluded debt owed to the Bureau of Reclamation from counting against that number. So we've got a few things to continue researching. We could be doing loans with the Corps of Engineers that would go against that debt limit. But this is something we'll bring to you when the committee's ready. I also trust that you've all read your agenda and see we're doing some normal budget adjustments for grants that have come up. We have, when I got this board package and Tara said that it was too big to email, and I looked at that Dropbox and it was 279 pages. It took me by surprise until I realized that that loan agreement with DFA is about 180 pages by itself. And Lorna, I will ask, have you read the agreement and does it meet muster?
Director Kelly, I read every word and I billed accordingly. I did conclude that it was in order and we worked together with Pam. Thank you.
Thank you for reviewing it. And then if you've read your mail out, you see we've got a couple ancient old safes back in the finance area. I think all four of us looked at it. Yeah, all five of us here looked at them that are obsolete and don't show up on our inventory report. So there's a resolution to unload those. So the Finance Committee has looked at all these and concurs with the need to do every one of them. And I would like to have a resolution to approve the resolutions under items 13A, B, and C.
I move to pass the resolution.
And I will note that Vice Chair Baugh is now on the Finance Committee and was in there, so I appreciate that. And we may make him chair of the Finance Committee.
I have my calculator.
After you learn what GASB 35 is.
God bless you.
I'll
We
second.
have a motion, we have a second. Roll call vote on this. Director Huron?
Yes.
Thanks for still being with us. Director Sandoval? He's temporarily moved. Director Russo Baca?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Director Dunning? Director Lopez?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 with Director Sandoval absent for the vote.
Yes.
Oh, yes, thank you. Okay, reports from the chief engineer.
All right.
Jason, we've all read item 14A, getting rid of that little requirement to extend the meeting beyond 6:30, and your resolution does a good job explaining the background of how we got there, and now we're getting rid of it. Do we have a resolution, or do we have a motion to approve that resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
A second.
Second. Okay, roll call vote. Director Huron?
Yes.
Director Sandoval?
Yes.
Director Russo-Baca?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Director Dunning? Director Lopez?
Yeah.
Thank you all. Passes unanimously. That said, Jason, that doesn't mean we want to be here till 7:30 each night. So it is up to the chair and the chief executive to take a look at the agendas and keep us on schedule and to package things up. But most importantly, we meet once a month and we got to do the work of the district. So thank God for having committees, and thank God that you all read your mailouts thoroughly so we can move quickly on action items.
And written reports.
And written reports from the board members to document their reports from the board. Okay, Jason.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Bernalillo County farmers meeting.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, B, C, and D are all reports on farmers meetings, so I'm just gonna kind of blend them all together.
Please do.
Because I think there's something, and then and be relatively quick with that. And I hear you, Mr. Chairman. I have no desire to have this meeting be any longer than it has to be, but cover all the right amount of business. That is a commitment from me as your CEO. So what I think is interesting is uniquely between Bernalillo County, Valencia County, and Socorro County. I'm always step back and really appreciate the unique difference between each one of those communities. Because with the exception of the compact itself, and that was largely driven by some of our conversations, those communities are very unique. And I always come away, and I think it's good for the MRGCD and our staff and the board members to come away just recognizing as we interact with them how uniquely those communities change. And so I'm always struck by that. And I was encouraged at the response to, I do believe, as opposed to 5 years ago when I first started doing this, the understanding of the hydrology, I think, is more fundamentally understood across the valley. And unfortunately, that has come with experience to the irrigators. And so I want to thank the staff. I think as the staff prepares for those, they've grown in their ability to really talk to the public and empathize with the public. We take our job very seriously. And so those are two things I'm struck with, that struck me just over and over, how very different it is, even from Valencia County to Socorro County. But this idea of a changing hydrology is getting across. I do believe it's going to be harder. It's going to get harder before it gets better. And I do believe our processes, both MRGCD and at the state level, are going to have to be modified for relief ultimately to come. And I've heard it from a friend of mine that said, hey, you know what? People are beginning to recognize it's so bad that breaking some of those rules that we can break and revisit. And I'm not saying the compact, because I don't know that that's a rule that can be rebroken by us, but there are internal processes both within the MRGCD and the state, and quite frankly, at the federal government. So anyway, I'll leave it there. We have a diverse and wonderful valley. It's worth fighting for. It's worth protecting. And I know they can be hard, but those farmers meetings have been a staple of what we've done since I've become the CEO. I want to keep doing them. Obviously, we'll be making modifications and trying to make them better. So any feedback from you as the board members on that, please let us know. But that was a commitment made by leaving one board meeting or two board meetings a month, going to one, but then this way of reaching out and allowing that public to engage with us on this level. And I think our style of doing that, walking out there, answering any question that comes, taking the hard questions, I think it's valued among the community. And there's not really anybody that does it like us. Between state and federal agencies, every one of them has to go and ask a higher person to get cleared on what they say. And so I just appreciate that from you as the board. You allow me to tackle those questions. You show up yourself tackling them. And I think that makes us very unique in the government space to get out there and listen to hard questions and answer them as a district. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Comments, Director Russo-Baca?
Thank you, Chairman. And I just want to say thank you to the staff and IT for getting the portable screen. That is very cool. So, and for the heavy lifting that it literally takes to get it there. So.
Thanks, sir. Jason, I have a question. Was Bernalillo County the most highest attended, I guess, by number? And that's a first, right?
Yeah, so Bernalillo County was a no.
Oh, okay.
We had one before where we filled up a building probably twice that amount. I would say it's usually between Bernalillo County and Socorro. Socorro is generally well attended too. I'll be interested. The numbers are down, I think, always in the winter, and they usually get bigger in the middle, in the summer ones. So, but yeah, no, the Duranis meeting was was good.
Was
awesome.
exceptional. Yeah, thank you for that. And what a busy way to get the year started. 4 in a month. So congrats to the staff and thanks so much.
So directors, let's talk about the schedule for the summer.
Okay.
Would you like to see these meetings 2 a week? Or do you like the 1 a week? One every week. You like the
I would rather,
schedule?
yes, Chairman, I would rather get them all done if that's something that the staff feels is feasible.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, I would love to jump in on that. 1 a week, I think, is all we can do. It's basically takes a whole day, and so to be able to come away from that, and in the middle of the summer, if we're gonna do, if you want to do 2 a week, I think that's winter, not summer. But the amount of business that's going to be going on and issues that we'll be facing will go up, especially in terms of ISOs and Matt and Ann and folks' time. Right now during the winter, it's a largely maintenance activity that's going on. And so if I can give any desire or any of my desire there along with the staff, 1 a week is plenty to plan for versus trying to get out. And you're losing, if you do 2 a week, you're losing almost 2 days depending in that week. So that would be hard in the middle of the summer.
So we'll stick with the 1 a week program. And then you get into July though, and you've got 4th of July weekend could impact your first week.
Yeah, one of the other comments I gave is I've thrown this out to Amanda and the staff in terms of maybe renaming these. I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but I am struck that MRGCD has more missions than irrigation. And so we were talking about maybe having the winter meetings be MRGCD community meetings, and we can cover all topics there. But we want to make sure people who have other issues with the district know that they're welcome at those, and that's a way to interact with you, interact with me, whether that's levies, other things, right of way, right? Like, because largely by naming them farmers, I think we're gearing it to it too. And then I think it would be appropriate to name the summer ones as focused on irrigation, but maybe have the winter ones begin to focus on more district wide. And obviously we'll deal with irrigation issues there, but maybe focus those winter meetings on MRGCD community meetings, and where we can again talk levies, talk right of way, talk all those other things that we deal with in here, which I'm often struck that doesn't show up at those irrigators meetings, which there's a very passionate community about some of our right of way policies and those kinds of things. And I'm wondering if they're losing the opportunity maybe to speak at some of those because we target these as irrigator meetings.
That was going to be my comment. And so I agree with you. I think that's a great idea because when we call them irrigators meetings, it's irrigators who show up, and it's important. And they talk about irrigation, and those other issues just never get addressed. So I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, those are the end of all of my reports.
Okay, you note a couple upcoming events, and I think you've made all your arrangements for NWRA.
That's correct. We settled on the final member of the team this afternoon.
Good. Thank you all for going. Then we have the Land and Water Summit, Director Dunning.
It's probably because I didn't get it at my MRGCD email. I got it at my personal one, but I don't know if it's worth mentioning that the Utton Center has a couple things coming up that are really pertinent to MRGCD.
Somewhere we had an invite.
Yeah, so do you want to just read that out? Okay. Thank you, Chair. So on March 2nd, at the UNM School of Law, we're having a Rio Grande Basin in New Mexico screening. It's just like about a less than an hour long, followed with Q&A with the interviewees. So the documentary follows the Rio Grande from just below the Colorado state line to Elephant Butte Irrigation District. And so we'll have Martha Cooper, John Fleck, Jorge Garcia, Phil King, myself, and Paul Toshin. on the panel, and that's March 2nd. And I believe I gave this to Tara, and she's going to put it in our meeting minutes and then invite the rest of the board. And then I think the other one is it's like a CLE with AI and water use. And so that one is in February 24th, and that's also at the law school at 5:30 if anybody's interested.
And Mr. Chairman, under those upcoming events, I would encourage the board to mark, well, as soon as we get the agenda, I'll say, but we'll get it to you. But I'm participating on a panel focused on river drying. I think that there's a lot of information out there that a lot of folks don't understand. And I hope that this is part of what this panel is going to do is provide opportunities for people in the community, especially who attend this Land and Water Summit. So as soon as we get the agenda for that, I'm participating in a group. Rin from UNM is helping us put together like the way that panel is going to operate and to ask some good questions. And so if you can, I just maybe hold those dates and we'll get the agenda for when that river drying panel will be up. And I think that would be an interesting one to attend. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, reports from our attorneys. Lorna?
I have nothing for the reports. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have any items for executive session?
I do not this meeting. Thank you.
Jeff?
Mr. Chair, and nothing for this session. There was the issue earlier that you all wanted to talk about in executive session, and there's maybe one other.
Okay, Lorna, I do want to bring up something in executive session, so please stick around when we get there. Thank you. Okay, now we have reports from the board, and about 60% of them we have a written report on. Thank you, Director Russo-Baca. And some of the other ones, we need to give short and sweet verbal reports. And we'll start with our vice chair about a constituents on the Harwood Lateral meeting.
Yeah, so thank you, Chairman Kelly. You were there, and so was Director Dunning. It was just a really nice information meeting that the city hosted with members of the neighborhood to discuss the overall design and kind of getting their feedback on the dog park idea. And it was well attended, and everyone's really excited to see a lot of good things happening on the Harwood.
And I'll note that it appeared that people weren't sold on the idea of dog parks until some of their neighbors told them how good dog parks worked for them in other parts of town.
That's correct. Yeah, so, they were like, yeah, they were very excited at the end.
So we'll have a question coming to the board potentially about, do we dedicate that right of way to the city of Albuquerque? Give it to the, we'll trade it for a Sequia Madre. But they already have a park on it. Okay, thank you for your report. Next one, let's see. Oh, wait, we got the exit conference. Director Dunning, you wanted to say something about the exit conference?
So the exit conference, you can't say anything about it until it's been approved by the auditor. But in case there's anybody who actually reads minutes that's a government wonk, they might say, why are they having this so late? Because normally those audits are due December 15th. But this year there was a change in and Pam, it's the general accounting, GAO. The rules that you have to follow for accounting. And so they passed the law, but then they didn't have the regulations implementing it. So the state auditor's office gave everybody who has to prepare audits until we were actually ahead of the game. They had till February 1st. And so I just wanted the public to know that we were not late with our audit. Everybody was, and they had
20th that the reports were due.
Yeah, and then the other ones, yeah.
And then the single audit was due February 1st, but we turned them both in at the same
And then at the other one, it was a shout out to Pam and her accounting department. They're going to make changes again to accounting standards, and Pam's already on top of that. She has staff lined up to get training on that. And so I just want to compliment them for always being ahead of the game.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Denning. Okay, moving down the list, and Director Russobach, I'll get back to your reports if you want to embellish any of them. Report on the tour of the Corrales Siphon Project, Director Lopez.
There was not much to see because operation had kind of stopped because of auger stuck in the ground, but it was an impressive. I'd like to go back and look at it whenever they're re-drilling and not stuck in the ground.
Well, and I guarantee you, Jason's going to have water for that siphon when we're ready for it.
But it was an impressive sight. It's just nothing was happening. It's just a pipe in the ground.
Okay, thank you. And we had a good report from Wilson and Company on that, and from Eric too. Okay, Vice Chair Ball, report on opening day at the New Mexico Legislature.
Thank you, Chairman Kelly. Yeah, I was an honored guest, the Speaker of the House. Got to sit up there and see it all work, and they gave a shout out to the district, and they did okay with my name, but maybe I have to give Lieutenant Governor Morales a way to say Colin, other than an anatomical body part.
Okay. Thank you for your report. Director Sandoval? Not on?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. He had to, has some cultural reasons to address at the Pueblo. Okay, we'll jump over that one. The main canal channel lining, you already talked about that during the presentation. And then Director Dunning, a report on the Pueblo lateral.
So I had a meeting with, and he's in the audience. It's Vincent Sanchez. I got your name right? Okay. And he has been before us and given public comment. And so I will say that a lot of the issues are neighbor to neighbor issue, or they're issues that aren't MRGCD. They're, problems with the village maybe approving things that they shouldn't have. And so a lot of them we can't do anything about, but I did make a commitment that Chair Kelly and I would try to meet with Lawrence Rael, the mayor, because the village has this whole mission of trying to preserve agriculture in the village. And yet some of the things that they're doing are not preserving agriculture. But then there was another issue that was that I noticed. And so I asked Chair Kelly if he would go with me to look at it, because he's an engineer and I'm not. And I don't know if he wants to address that. I'm going to give it to him and just see what he wants to do about that.
Director Dunning, we're going to speak about that in executive session. I have some questions on where we fit in between the village and ourselves and the property owners in this particular location. And I will note, I was out there not in my capacity as an engineer for the district or anything like that. I was out there as a board member. In fact, my engineering license is in retired status and is going to stay that way. But
it's knowledge.
But I've retained a lot of knowledge. So we'll discuss that further. So Director Russobach, you have written reports on a series of items here. Did you add any particular one?
I think just to add about the legislature, and this year, we have a short session. Myself, Vice Chair Baugh, and Director Dunning are all on the legislative committee. So we met with John Thompson. We've been going up there quite often to make sure that we're seen, and that issues and attending committee hearings and just making sure that we're present there. Also, I went to on Food and Farms Day, and they have very cute handouts from the state engineer's office, like water, agricultural, and food, as well as Discover the Waters of New Mexico. And there's a little game you can play on prior appropriation. And these are free publications that I think we should hand out to kids in 4th, 5th grade. And maybe we can go and be guest speakers again at the local grade schools and talk about what we do. And I may have handed them out to my ag law students as well. So, but yeah, I think it's good that we're continuing to be present, especially during this short session. And that's it.
Thank you. Let's see, last one, the SESOS Seed Blessing Celebration. Director Dunning?
Yeah, I attended that. Jorge's in the audience. And that was a community celebration. There were kids from the school, community members, and it was really sort of a way to sort of talk about agriculture, but it's got spiritual roots and historical roots and sort of bring those all together in a seed ceremony. And I thought it was real moving and thank you. I'm glad you invited us.
Thank you, Director Dunning. So that said, could I have a motion to approve all of the reports from the board as presented, both orally and written?
So moved.
Move we approve.
Somewhere we got a motion and second from that end. Okay, roll call vote on this. Director Huron?
Yes.
Thank you, Director. Director Russo-Baca?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Director Dunning? Director Lopez?
Yes.
Okay, we've come to the end of our regular agenda and have some items to discuss in executive session. Could I have a motion to go into executive session under the Open Meetings Act?
Make a motion to go into executive session under NMSA 1978 Open Meetings Act, Section 10-15-1H and 7, due to limited personal matters or threatened or pending litigation.
I second.
We have a second. Roll call vote again. Director Huron?
Yes.
Director Russo-Baca?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Director Dunning?
Yes.
Director Lopez?
Yes.
We are in executive session.
3 consecutive weeks, which is 30 days, basically, yeah. But now it's the total they get is basically.
Motion to go back into regular session. Have a motion and
I'll second.
second. Roll call vote on this. I'll note that 3 of our directors have departed the meeting. So roll call vote starting with Director Russo-Baca.
Yes.
Sure.
That's it.
Somebody Director Lopez.
Yes.
We are back in regular session. During executive session, we discussed
I know.
legal issues
I'll deal with it.
and
I'll call him.
directions given to council to move for its resolution of those issues.
Yeah.
See.
It's on my list.
Or
Actually,